Hello, wonderful people. I am Niiamah Ashong, founder of the Trailblazer Collective and leader of the World Joy Movement. Today, we get a chance to come together as the Trailblazer Tribe and spend some time really focusing on one massive mission, which is shaping the next era of humanity. And that mission here is the purpose, my almost like my soul's calling. Not almost, it is my soul's calling. I know what I'm here for: to champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. And it's really interesting to start off this conversation with that kind of context. But I think that anything less than that will keep the true power of this experience from really being able to be reached. And so, in a bit here, I'm going to introduce you to two very powerful people in my world, and we're going to spend some time doing some coaching together. But I want to just call out some things, even in the first few seconds here. The first part is the element of creating the container that's large enough for what it is that you wanted to get done in the world. I find myself in real time making getting more and more comfortable calling out that I champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. And the space itself is set up for that from the beginning. Where in your life might you be have the opportunity to create more space by simply speaking your truth and owning what is already true for you? The second thing that came up here was the mission, purpose, the soul's calling. And I want to call that out and give us an opportunity to also step into that. What is the mission, your purpose, the what's the calling of your soul? And it may not be something that you know right off the bat, but I want to give you space here to start playing with that as well. I in February of this year, I found out I'm here to champion the leaders who are shaping the next era of humanity. I didn't know it before that. But every part of my actions were in alignment with that. And I call attention to both of those things here because honestly, I get it. As a trailblazer, you are up to big things in your world. For where you are, the places, the things that you do, the way that you are with people, it makes an impact. And I want to just make sure that we start out here as I'm creating more space for myself to show up, and that I'm also sharing a bit more as to what is taking place and why I'm choosing to do it. So I love to bring in two really powerful people today. We have Margaret Ellen, we have Paul, and we're going to spend some time doing some group coaching. So one of the I want to explain a little bit about what group coaching is, and this one here, like Margaret Ellen, Paul, I think I'm leaving everyone else here so that we can just focus on us. Right, the conversation is here in this moment. Um, with that, there are a few things that I would like to create for us to be able to really be able to play. Okay. The first one is and I'll do this through agreements. So you can say yes or no, or and if we need to like adjust things, you let me know. And honestly, don't feel bad about that because that in and of itself could be the coaching. Claiming and creating the space that will serve you, like that might be the most beneficial thing that happens. And I want to make sure we leave space for that. So the first thing here is that for today's conversation, we're doing this in a group coaching format. What that looks like then is that I'm going to be focusing on each of you individually to coach. We're going to have time to go through and help you see things from a new perspective. I'm not here to give you answers. I'm here to have you come up with better questions, more powerful questions that will open up new opportunities and possibilities that didn't feel available beforehand. Right? In that process, the agreement here is while I'm coaching anyone, I'm actually coaching everyone. So even though the attention may not be on you at that moment, there's still something in there for you. And I invite you to play either by pretend like as if you were getting coached. Uh, if you were coaching, how would you go about it? Or just being in a space of seeing where else this might impact you in other places of your life. So are you comfortable to play in accordance and agreement with the group coaching format today?
Yes.
Yes.
See, I mean, hearing and seeing yes is great. The second thing then is that this space has been specifically designed for you. This is like in the way that we build this here together, you are the focus. And my invitation here is for you to be selfish. If the word selfish is hard to take in, be self interested. And I say that because I'm looking over here, I see a red dot recording, and it's like, oh, this could go out to other people or all that other stuff. How can I make sure that this is the best thing for others? Please free yourself of that. Please free yourself of that immediately here. And the reason here that I've found is that the things that are most universal are the things that are most personal. The things that are most universal are the things that are most personal. I think that's important because a lot of us here are about inclusion. A lot of us are finding ways to bring people together and to help people step further out into themselves. And I think that we get to be by simply being self-interested in this conversation and bringing up the things that will really matter, that will really shift the needle for us. That is going to that's going to be the things that's going to impact people far beyond anything that we could even imagine intentionally trying to do. So what I love to do is just to give us the space to have whatever needs to happen, and know that in your decision to be self-interested, you are actually going to serve far more than anything else. Are you open in this conversation to be in? I'm seeing if open is a high enough level of agreement for me. Okay. Do you agree in this conversation to practice self-interest? You might, and you can call yourself out if you step out. Like we're not like we are human with it. But are you in agreement to practice self-interest in this conversation?
Yes.
Any
Yes.
questions on that? Okay, cool. And yes or either yes or no is good. So I'm good with that. Um, Wonderful. So I think the last thing here on my end then is that I'm going to show up in a way. For me, I'm hiding nothing and I'm holding nothing back. I have a context of courageous honesty right now, and I'm coupling that with courageous integrity. And it came from a quote. It came from a quote by Kenneth H. Blanchard, and he said, "Honesty is telling the truth to ourselves and others. Integrity is living that truth." So I like to play with both of that and be in this space here with the two of you, and we'll have some fun. I use play intentionally. This is our space. We can do what we want. All right. Um, so let's go off here then, and let's start off with you, Paul. We'll play this way. Paul, I love to just like get a chance to get to know you in the context of where you are right now. We've gone on a journey together for the last, I guess, I don't know, year or so here, and I keep seeing you show up and more powerfully and more fully in your world. Um, the question I have for you is, I'd love for you to just tell me a little bit more about like what is your purpose right now? What is like what's the reason that you're here on this earth? And I like to play. I'll leave it with that, just like that.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. My purpose, my calling in the world is to empower people, empower leaders to break out of their closet of inauthenticity and to be able to be and live fully unapologetically authentically as who they are, to build through their authenticity, be able to connect with themselves, connect with the people around them in a more powerful way, and more importantly, connect with their vision so that they can bring it to life.
Awesome, Paul. I will say like, and you said that through right through the closet of authenticity, that really like struck me. It really struck me there. I'm glad that you are here. I'm going to spend some time a little bit later to get to know Margaret Ellen, but let's focus on you for now, Paul.
Sure.
Sorry, you just said a word that I have to just call out real quick. Otherwise, I wouldn't be in integrity. So I have a hard time with the word "sure." Uh, to me, it's a secret disempowering word. It's not even just like not powerful. It is actually, to me, actively disempowering. And the way
Mm.
that it shows up for me is that like in our space, let's have a yes or a no. Either one is great. But the element of sure, it tends to be, uh, I don't really want to do this, but I won't go against it, right? And so I want to just like I want to have us keep practicing being in that power here, and really saying what is it that we want. So, are you good to continue?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, cool. It is as soon as you said it, my face dropped. I'm like, oh no, like I don't want to, I don't want to go there. But I also know that if I don't, I wouldn't be showing up in integrity
Mm.
with you, right? And if I'm not showing up in integrity from the very beginning, then I'm already hiding something. That's not how I want to play. Right.
Yep.
So, Paul, from this perspective here, I'm someone who chooses to live in a world of problems. Right. I love spending our time here to say, how can we actually shape the future, and in doing so, create a possibility that may not exist right now. So, if there was with you, Paul, I was going to ask if there was anything that was possible. What would we need to talk about for you? But I actually want to explore what feels impossible for you. So,
Mm.
Paul, thinking about where you are, thinking about your purpose, what you're actually here to do, right? What feels impossible for you today?
Hmm. Feels impossible for me today. So part of a vision that I have, well, a vision that I had less than a year ago is I saw this vision of myself standing on stage. And it wasn't just any stage, it was a stadium. There was hundreds of thousands of people there. And I think there's always been this question in my head about, is that truly a vision, or did I make that up? And in this moment, as I am on this journey to be a stand for authenticity, I think often it feels impossible. Just where I am right now, it feels impossible to get there when I am in a space where not very many people know me, where frankly really struggling to put out to put myself out there. I think often the stories in my head is, well, how do you get to take your story and the stand that you have, that you can see the power in, and that others that have heard it can see the power in? How do you take that and get that into a space where you're not only creating results with it in terms of really building up my business, but being able to get to a place where I'm on stage in front of hundreds of thousands of people. So that's, at this moment, feels impossible.
All right, Paul. Thank you for bringing that in here. Um, you said something earlier that you said something just now that like I'm really curious about. You said I wasn't sure if that was actually my vision or if it was something else. You remember saying that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Can you elaborate on like what were the? Can you elaborate on that? That was really curious to me. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. I Up until about a year ago, I was in a space where I didn't dream very big, and I've been told um, my whole life up until now that I the things that I think about are dreams. They're things that I envision in my head, um, and it's not necessarily something that is what I'm called to do per se. Because one of the stories that I've had the opportunity to really do the work on and break through in the past, call it year, is really trusting myself. And so what's coming up for me when you asked, with the question that you just asked me, is that when this vision first came into my head, the question that I asked myself was, is this, do I trust myself that this is what I'm called to be? Is this a vision of what I can see for what's possible in my life and where I get to go? Or is this something that I'm just dreaming about, that I'm daydreaming about? That is, um, the word fabrication is coming up for me right now, but I don't know if that's exactly the right word, but something that's, I'm dreaming about, but may not necessarily be something that gets to be possible. It gets to happen.
Thanks for that. Does that happen often? Like where you feel something, you have a vision of something, and then you doubt or question whether or not that's even real or that you get to dream it?
Oh, for sure. Growing up, I was told a lot because my mom was very much I would call her pretty much the head of the household in a way where, my father worked overseas a lot. And so one of the things that would often come up is my mom would say, you don't know what's best for you. You need to make sure you run everything by me first because, you don't really know. And so I realized when I got into my adult years, I questioned my thinking a lot. And I'd often need to run it by one person or three, four people to validate my thoughts. And that's been something that I've been really doing a lot of work on, is trusting myself. And that has been a struggle for me. Still a struggle for me at times for sure, but it was a much bigger struggle for me about up until about a year ago.
Thank you, Paul. I'm going to use this a number of different ways like that I can go, and what I want to do is kind of give you a little bit of what's going on in my mind as we go along here.
Mm-hmm.
I part of us, we're all. I want to be authentic. If this is about authenticity for you, I want to practice that in this space with you. Um, so what comes up for me is I'm not necessarily sure then at this case, in this point, if impossible is actually the path for you in terms of where this conversation will be. Because right now, if I'm hearing you, like I was all in on like, oh, we're gonna like be on stage. Let's go talk about that external goal. How can we get you from trying to get there to being that person right now? But I know like you're one of the people who, when I see a post on social media, I like to slow down and actually read what's going on, because I see that you're actually creating your stage right now, and it happens to be through text and the way that I'm reading it. But like I see, I see you showing up from that perspective. So there's a part of me that wants to go and like talk around that there, but there's another part of me that was listening right from the very beginning. The way that you qualified, the way that you created your space around this here, that makes me like really say, at this point, I'm like, oh, I don't know if Paul knows what's actually impossible for him or not, and whether it's actually feels impossible, or if this is just like part of the story of like, actually, Paul, you don't really know what you can do just yet. And so I want to like leave the world of impossibility for you, because what I'm hearing right now is like you're working on different ways to see what is possible for you, and what like, and working on that. So I feel like impossible is not going to be the path that's going to get us to something meaningful for you. I just get really curious. I don't care if it's a dream. I don't care if it's a vision. Like, Paul, what do you want?
What do I want?
It's an unfair question, but I'm going to ask it.
I've been asked this question a lot lately. What do I want? I want the number one thing for me. Well, it's multifaceted. I want abundance in my life. That's really important to me. And abundance around, because I truly believe that the more abundant you are, the more impact you're creating. It's just, money is really just energy. And so that's what's definitely coming up for me. I want,
I'm going to pause you.
yeah.
I'm going to pause you, Paul. I'm getting some great things here, and I'm gonna actually like I'm gonna invite you and challenge you to this. Just answer this question straight up right now,
Mm.
right? And this is just like, what is it that you want? What do you want to create? Like, but like just if you had to say it, you had to bottom line it in this conversation. What is it that
Mm.
you want?
I want money. I want significance. I want I want I want children. I want to be a dad. Um, I want an amazing, loving, connected marriage. I want to make a significant difference in my family and transform their lives. I want to matter. I want to I want to be worthy. I want to be seen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? What else do you
I,
want?
I was just going to add, I want to be heard.
Yeah. And since we're listening, what else would you want? Well, let me rephrase it. You want to be heard. What do you want to say?
Hmm. What do I want to say? Hmm. What I want to say is that it is worth the price to create a life truly worth living. And that there is freedom. There is incredible freedom. There's incredible joy, peace, and an abundance available in choosing to be authentically who you are.
And if this was
And
your,
oh, go ahead.
okay,
Go ahead.
all right. So actually, I'm gonna pause real quick on that,
Mm-hmm.
really quickly, Paul, because I I'm playing right now with just the last thing that you said. Right? There's a lot that's in there. There's more that I'll come back to. Right? Uh, but you want to be heard, and the reason I'm asking, the two times that you wanted to be like, there's at least twice right now where you like, I want to be heard, and you had something else to say, and I was going to go in a different direction, or I was going to say something, and both times it was just like a complete acquiesce, like you go, or well, I was just going to say this other thing, and it was like, oh, what I'm going to say is that I want to be heard. And I found it really curious that like the fact that you want to be heard was the thing that like went like that when the space came for that was the part that got pulled back in. There doesn't have to be anything about this, but I like to play this out as if like that we're living the world right now, and
Mm.
that this has its own place. So, what do you make of that? Like, there may be nothing there, but I found it curious that like twice we were in a space of like we're like you want to be heard, and the space has been created to be heard, and you've deferred it in various ways, very graciously, where you've deferred it twice. I just want to just like see what do you make of that? I'm just curious about it. I'd love to look at that with you.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I think what I'm seeing is one of the things that comes up for me is that as a kid, I was told I was too much. I was loud. I was out there. I was bold. I was constantly just, I couldn't sit still. I was constantly creating. And the world was really my oyster. That's truly how I felt. And over time, the narrative that was around me was that that was a bad thing. I'm too energetic. I'm too loud. I'm too naughty. I should sit still. I should not be too much. And so I've spent my whole life really suppressing myself from being too much and from putting myself out there and being too out there and putting too much attention on myself, because that was uh, a story that was created in my life, that when I am too much and when I am in the spotlight for too long, it is a bad thing and I'm taking away from others. And that's why people end up leaving me in my life. That was often the narrative I was told growing up. I didn't have a lot of friends, and my mom would say, that's exactly why you don't have a lot of friends, because you're the one that ends up talking the whole time. And no one else is, you constantly have the spotlight. And so I spent so much time suppressing my energy, suppressing my voice. And when I end up getting the spotlight, like right now, I end up sometimes holding back. And like you had mentioned, not going all the way, deferring, and not fully owning my voice. So that's definitely something that um, is something I've been very aware of, and get to continue to work on, for sure. So thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, Paul. I see you, and I see you, my friend, because you have opened that door. You've opened the door of playing. And I don't use my language. I don't just throw out language. Like someone threw out use the word sure, and I was like, hold on, let's make sure we're in integrity of what we want that word to be here. I started out this year saying, like, you're an incredibly powerful person in my world, and I see you there. And what I appreciate about you is that, like, you live in the authenticity, and I see you doing that practice. I want to call that out here. And I also want to acknowledge you for the work that you've done to actually see, like, what are the various stories that are here. What are some of the areas that are leading to the way that I'm showing up in the world, right? And I think in this moment here, I just want to just acknowledge the power of your voice, acknowledge the power of your truth here. There are things in here, and I have an invitation for you. More like, I want to acknowledge you for that perspective, but I have an invitation for you. And I use invitation. I don't use challenge, because challenge to me is an external motivation. And the way that I play, it's like, if you don't want it, if you're not going to be intrinsically motivated to come and do it, then there's no real engine of ongoing growth. And I am too lazy to keep coming back out there and trying to poke you again. But like, did you do it? Did you do it? No, thank you. I will invite you to in this place. And the element here of invitation, you have this space for you, right? My invitation is to practice being in that voice, to own your voice, to claim your voice in this space, and to have this be a place where you practice what that looks like for you. Because you talked about, how do I get to there, being on stage, like, as if it's some place that's really far away. We both have the same mentor of Rich Lifford, and he'll say, a goal is not a place to get to; it's a place to come from. We'd come from being like, how you are showing up, what is your alignment, how are you being in the world. I nowadays say it's not a place to get to, it's a place to start from. It's a place to start from. And so my thing, and I see you, I want to acknowledge you right now for what you have already been doing, because I don't want to set out this invitation without actually calling out, like, I see that you're playing this game already. I see that you're doing it. I want to call that out, and I want to acknowledge you for playing that game, and for finding ways for your voice to come out. I'm feeling your voice in this conversation, and the authenticity and trueness of you here, right? And I want to just create even more space for you to continue to practice that, and the question that comes to my mind is like, what if you're already past all the things that you think you need to get to? If you're already past that, and I like in my mind, it's like there's like a finish line that you passed ages ago, but like if you were still looking for that finish line, like how might that show up and how might that like impact your actions? So I want to invite you to just play through this question. I'm going to go to Margaret Ellen for a bit, but I want to like invite you to play through this question of like, what if that thing that you're looking for you have already passed and you already have? If that is the case, what new possibilities become open for you? Thank you, Paul.
Got it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Margaret Ellen, let's play a bit here. Hi, Margaret Ellen.
Hi, Niiamah.
It is. I'm glad that we're getting some time here together. Margaret Ellen, I'm going to invite you here just to for you personally. All right, and this is
Mm-hmm.
I want to frame this really well from the stand of what has been the greatest insight or the biggest insight or question that's come up for you based on any part of our conversation, even before we hit record earlier. Like what's been the greatest insight or impact, and as it applies to you. I want to just make sure that this is something that is working through you, not through anyone else.
Right in front of you. See that, John? Blue house. Blue house. Last. Wow. That was some serious thing.
I think the biggest
I was looking at me from
the biggest insight actually came from really hearing Paul talk about his own journey and hearing something that sounds very familiar to me, which is you know, growing up with certain stories that are being told to you, and then those stories can hold you back from the truth that you're already saying, sort of as a truth about the world or a truth about life, and yet you may not be listening to it yourself. I, in all of the work that I do and the way I try to just show up at life for the people who I love, I always encourage people to take care of themselves and to be in touch with their own humanity and to not overwork themselves and do too much and try to be too many things. And then I do exactly that myself all the time.
Yeah, when you say that, so firstly, thank you, Margaret Ellen. Thank you for letting yourself be seen here. What comes to mind is like we teach what we most need to learn, and so that is I smile because like honestly, as someone who's been in your world, I have actually benefited tremendously from your dedication to self care and helping others actually be able to take care of themselves here, and I smile because I'm like, yeah, we teach what we most need to learn. Like in that, from that perspective, it also like creates even more space for me to be able to know, like, oh, okay, if this is what one of the things I like to look at is what is it that someone offers to the world? What's the gift that they're offering to the world? And part of the reason that becomes the gift is because it's something that we ourselves are looking for or trying to bring into our own world. It's a lot easier for me to coach and to see things in other people and then miss it for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But also at the same time, it's like the work. I think part of the reason one of my skill sets is being able to see where people are incredibly brilliant and just shine, like where people shine, and that and also where they diminish that, where they hold that back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because myself, I've been someone who has repressed myself in order to get one level of brilliance, and I'm now on the path of liberating myself in order to like see what the next levels of brilliance or the next level of success and impact might be afterwards. So I appreciate being in this space with you, because there's just that element of realness between us, and also just like the fullness of you that's already entered in this conversation. So thank you, Margaret Ellen, for letting us see you. Thank you for showing up from the very beginning.
Thank you. You're welcome.
So we get a play here for yourself and the element of being self-interested here. I'm going to ask you a slightly different question, right? And the question I'm going to ask you is that right now the world is going through a lot of change around, right? But in my mind, I like to play out that like in 2021, we're in a new year, right?
Mhm.
And there's just a new mentality. We're just there, right? Look into like 2021, wherever the world happens to be, right?
Mhm.
For you here, what is the conversation that we need to have to help you be the person that would be able to just run into 2021 feeling just completely solid?
I think that I have a huge opportunity to speak up on my own behalf instead of only speaking up on behalf of other people. I'm at a bit of a turning point in my career where my current job has taken a change into a slightly different arena, but it is in exactly what I want to be doing. And I have spent a long time deferring, like Paul said, and going along to get along and taking the small wins wherever I can get them. And I think I have an opportunity for personal growth, career growth, but also actually making a really big impact if I can be more fearless about speaking up about facts that I know are true, things that I know are morally and ethically right, and making suggestions to people in places of great power and not being afraid to really speak up.
Yeah.
It's definitely relaxing.
I want to stay with this question here. I'm feeling that. I'm feeling the impact of what that might be. You have an opportunity, you say, right? I want to see. I think the question that's coming to mind here, right? Like I want to go down that path, but I'm like, I'm not yet sure exactly what would make this a life-changing conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to answer that, what would make what? Yeah, there it is, right there. I saw that. I saw that face. Yeah. Um, you have this opportunity. I want to see like, yeah, in this time here, Margaret Ellen, like what is the conversation that we would need to have to make this a life-changing conversation? It could be related to that, but I think you've shown me the door.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not necessarily sure what's inside of the room just yet.
That's true.
I really don't know. Can you ask me a different question to help me try to get
I
that?
absolutely can. I absolutely can. So the you're talking about this opportunity. You feel like you're at this opportunity, and you're talking about like the fear, like being more fearless around it. There, right?
Mm-hmm.
How can I best support you when it comes to that or anything?
I think that I have not practiced seeing myself as actually powerful and speaking in that way. I think that I have always wanted to be in enough of a sort of behind the curtain, to use a metaphor, and in a supportive role and sort of like operational and getting things done, when I actually I feel like you and I have had conversations about ways that I can lead and influence without sort of the traditional form of doing that. But I feel like there are potentially opportunities for me to do that in a more traditional way. And I think some of it may be,
Ryan shared personal facts.
a lot of it is just not being afraid. And I don't know how, I can't, so just fix that for me real quick.
Okay, if you want, we can. If you'd like to do that, like I got you for that, Margadella. I'm good with that. So I'm yeah, we have 5 minutes here. We can totally take care of that. That's good.
Okay.
My invitation for you is you said to be fearless. And I heard that as one word, like fearless. I have a couple different invitations to you. The first one is rather than being fearless, one word. What if you chose to fear less? 2 words. So without to not be in the absence of fear, but to actually just change. What I'm doing right there is actually just changing the relationship of fear with you.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's the first jump to take, which makes it feel possible rather than impossible.
Yeah. So I like to play in that world. Whenever I hear fearless, there's I can't remember the quote exactly, but it goes a little bit to the gist of true courage is not I can't remember. I'll send you the quote afterwards. But there's this element. The punchline is doing the thing with wet pants. And so doing the thing, it's this element here of it's I'm not looking for you not to wet your pants. My thing is after that, then what happens? Are you still willing to go and do it? So we're talking about fear and being fearless. I'm gonna offer you a few different ways to play with that, because I actually don't know if fearlessness is as useful as people make it out to seem.
Right.
Typically, fearlessness. I think if you're truly fearless, you might have already passed that element, and you the learning that you can get from that experience you've already transcended it. And so there's actually, to me, I look at fear and it's a bit of my compass as to what's the direction to go in. And so if you're feeling fearless, then I'm feeling that you're not put in your place where you can actually see what your power is. My thing is I actually invite more of those elements where fear gets a chance to show up. And it's in those moments, and this is you said something that really resonated. You said practice. It's in those moments where you get a chance to practice. You don't get to practice fearlessness. You get to practice courage. And I think if there was a place that I would say I would point out and call attention to, it's in that act of courage and building out the courage muscle itself. And I know you to be a courageous person in so many other ways, right? And so what I'm hearing is that you're how can I continue to bring that courage into this space as it works on behalf of myself, as it works on behalf of speaking up for the truth that matters in that moment. Am I getting that right there? I want to make sure I'm not just.
That's absolutely right.
Okay. Yeah. So there's this element here where it's from the fear perspective here, I'm not here to try and help you get rid of it. It is an amazing tool. Fear is an amazing tool if you allow it to be. If you allow it to be. And so from that place there, for me, it opens up the question of just the element of just being in the spaces where it shows up. The real question is, will I have, and someone gave me this as a tool, 3 seconds of courage. The 3 seconds of courage tool is you don't need to be courageous throughout the entire conversation. You don't need to be are you willing to open your mouth and say, I have to say something? It's in that 3 seconds of courage that everything changes. And so for in this conversation, I think this is the place I'm going to go with you on this here is I applaud you for being in places where your fear can show up. I applaud you for being in places where you have an opportunity to speak, not even where you see that opportunity to speak your truth. And I applaud you for being someone that's I want to step into that. there's the part that's really hard that I find is that like there's no like easy way to do this other than being in the practice of it all.
Yeah.
Other than being in the practice of it all. And so that's my invitation right now, is to say like, what if we didn't need to be fearless? What if instead we were allowing ourselves to fear less and just go for that 3 seconds of courage? I think this is an ongoing thing where it's like, it's for us, and I would love to hear some of like what comes up like in the next time that you felt that fear and you stepped into the 3 seconds. I think that might give us a little bit more information as to like how we can continue to build on there. But let me check in with you. When I say that, here we go. If we're going to practice, let's really practice, right? I don't need to look good. I don't need to be right. Like I really am just here to be in service. Like this is my truth in this moment as we're talking. What about that? What's the truth? If you're going to be courageously honest right now in this moment, what's the truth that you like to say around that? Does that even resonate? Is that like absolutely BS, or that's not helpful at all? Is it like, this is actually incredibly useful? I want to just invite that in this moment right here.
I think this is really useful. I think that I so often see I can be afraid or not afraid. And I know there's a spectrum, but it's really easy to feel like, oh, I'm scared, so let's shut it down. But I really love the idea of, I'm going to be courageous for 3 seconds. And once I get past that 3 seconds, it's like the nerves that I feel before I give a big presentation or give a big speech somewhere. I get really, really nervous right before it happens. And as soon as I'm on the stage or in the webinar these days, it's gone and I'm fine. And so it's like it resonates because I feel like I've not practiced it on purpose in that way, but I know what it feels like to sort of have a momentary like, and then, oh, wait, I'm okay. I did this, I can do it. And so 3 seconds of courage that, could potentially even build to 5 seconds. Let's go wild here. That's really exciting, and it's empowering to me. It feels like something I could practice like tomorrow in this new role that's starting suddenly.
Yeah. I see. Like honestly, I know that you got it, and I want to try and keep it to that element. It is a practice. Let's see what comes up. Keep me in the loop as you go through this, because it's I don't know. I like to think nowadays a lot of what I do is like I create what I'll call like a courage gym, a place where you can actually go and like work out those various muscles, like of like what is it like to be courageous. I even just started up a new program called the Trailblazer Collective that's specifically around that. And I got off a call of that right before I came here, and we're having some intense conversations, and it's a group of people who are globally minded, socially conscious, and impact-driven leaders that are stepping up to play on a new stage or webinar or whatever it is for them. And we're in that space of like, what's the courage that's necessary here so that we can actually step up into our next level? And so like part of it, like it's a place where we come to practice in a lot of different ways so that we can do something in a safe environment where you can still be brave, and then you can take it out into the world from there. So I'm with you. This feels like practice. I want to make sure that we continue this conversation from that perspective there.
Thank you. You got it.
Absolutely. So I'm noticing time. So I want to be mindful of that here in this conversation. I'm honored by both of you for being in this conversation. Let's do this. Let's leave this conversation with, I'll go to Paul. Paul, can you share either one insight or a question that you are leaving this conversation with? And Margaret Ellen, then we'll come back to you. And the question I have for you, the ask I would have for you as we close out, it's what's the question that you want to continue to, I would say, live into, to explore beyond this conversation? All right. So Paul, an insight or question based on anything that happened in this conversation, and then we'll close today's conversation.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always such a joy and such an honor to be in conversation with you. You have such a gift for opening up new insights. So what's coming up for me that I'm going to take away from this conversation is the last question that you asked me. that if I am already there, if I'm already past the finish line that I think I have to reach, what could be possible for me? What would I do differently? And I think that's a question I get to take into my life to really explore, because I think, I'm often very focused on the finish line, and that was powerful to look at what if I'm already past the finish line? Then what gets to be different? What do I get to be different? What do I get to do differently? And how would that change things? And what possibilities could that open up?
Fantastic, Paul. Like same thing. I would love to know how that continues to evolve with you. But live into that question and let me know. Let's stay on that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Paul.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And Margaret Ellen.
I think my question that you know me, I like to put things in lists or write things down, to have them around me as reminders, what I'm going to write down tonight to look at tomorrow. And I think on a daily basis is, how can I be a little bit braver today?
Feels like a really powerful, when you say that, it feels like a really powerful question just to be in. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Both Paul, Margaret Ellen, I'm looking at both of you here. Just know that I deeply appreciate you. There's a lot of love. Go forth, keep being awesome. I see you as powerful, and I'm glad that you brought that power into this space. Thank you for trusting me. I'm looking forward to what comes out from here. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Niiamah.
Hey, Niiamah here. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet, and then go ahead and leave one of your insights from today's video in the comments below. If you're looking to take this deeper, you can go and watch another video, or you can go to niiamah.com/tribe to get exclusive invitation to our tribe member only events. I'll see you soon.